Hello, everyone. Welcome to the J&J Consulting Services Investor Call. Today is August 28th, 2025, and it's approximately 10:01 a.m. Pacific Time. I want to start again by giving the typical disclaimers that we do. Nothing that we say in this call should be construed as legal or accounting advice. If you have any specific questions related to the law or to an accounting question, we do recommend that you reach out to competent counsel on that. Again, a reminder as well that everyone is considered innocent until proven guilty, so anything said in here should not be used to construe the guilt of any party. I have an exciting announcement. We had a hearing last week on Thursday with the court, and in that hearing, the court did approve our motion to begin a claims process. This is an exciting portion of the case because this is now the piece where we're going to be able to determine what everybody is owed with finality, submit that to the court, and request that a distribution be made. That claims process will begin on Monday, September 1st. You will be receiving those materials via email, and all claims must be submitted to us no later than December 1st of 2025. There will be a lot more information about the claims process later in this call. As well as we intend to actually have a claims call where we discuss how to complete a claim form and any other questions that people might have, as well as an in-person opportunity for people who have further questions to be able to meet with us and have us assist them in completing their claims. More information about that meeting will be forthcoming in the next few days. But again, that is it's an exciting announcement. People, we want to encourage everybody who is owed money to file a claim and file it before that December 1st, 2025 deadline. I also want to encourage everyone to try to get their claims in as quickly as possible. Although December 1st is the deadline, the earlier we get the claims in, the quicker that we can evaluate them and then submit information to the court. If everybody waits till December 1st to file their claim, it's going to take us longer to review all those claims. But if we can get them earlier, we will begin the review process as soon as we begin receiving claims. So that would allow us to get that done quicker, get it submitted to the court, and request a distribution be made quicker. So thank you, everyone, for joining the call. I do want to go through the questions that have been submitted to us. We have gotten quite a few questions. We will do our best to cover all of them in this call. If we have an opportunity, we will attempt to try to answer questions that do pop up in the settings. I do have a couple people that are assisting me with that, and they will attempt to answer your questions if possible. And if not, then we will, if you have a question that does not get answered during the call, do feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to go ahead and discuss that with you. I do see that some people are saying that they're having a hard time hearing. I'm going to turn up my microphone right now to see if we can't make that better. Okay, that's the loudest I can get the microphone turned up. So hopefully that's better for everyone. So the first questions have to do with forensic accounting. And the question is, have all investors turned in their paperwork as to how much they've lost? The answer is no. We have not requested that paperwork from investors because of the fact that we had to do a complete reconstruction of the accounting. We believe that we actually know what most, if not all, investors are owed. And so we will be sending out a claim form that actually has that information in it, with the hope that people can review it. If they agree with it, they can just sign their claim and be done. They will not have to submit any further information at that point. If we do have questions about your claim, or if you dispute the amount that you believe that you're owed, then we will work with you on that in order to be able to determine exactly what you're owed. So as part of that process, you'll have that opportunity to review that information, and if you agree, you can quickly sign it, and if not, you can file a claim for the amount that you do feel that you're owed. The process that the court approved is a money in, money out process. So that means that we will look at the total amount of money that an investor put in, the total amount of money that they receive back, and the net of those two will be the amount that you're entitled to for a claim. Next question is, you and your team submitted the SEC filings on March 31st. Why have payouts or receipts of your individual claims not happened yet? So again, going back, we have to do the claims process before a distribution can be done. The court must establish what everyone's claim is before we can do a distribution. Typically, and we have not yet determined for certain exactly how the distribution process will work because ultimately it is up to the court. However, typically these distributions are done on a pro rata basis, which means that we will take the total amount of money available and divide that by the total amount of claims, and then that will create a percentage return, and everyone will get that percent of their allowed claim for this first distribution. So that will give you an opportunity then to get those distributions in hand. So, but we can't do a distribution of any amount of the claims until we know what the total amount of claims are, because it will affect that pro rata distribution. The next group of questions have to do specifically with the claims process. When can we file a claim for money lost? September 1st, you will get that information. I don't yet know what time of the day on September 1st that will happen, but do keep in mind that that is a federal holiday. So while the claims will be going out that day, the information for the claims will be going out that day, there will not be anybody available to take any phone calls on that day. So if you have specific questions, do reach out to us on September 2nd. But again, our goal is in the second or somewhere between the second and third week of September, we will be having a claims call where we will go through and explain the process, and also give people opportunities to meet with us in person if they would like to have us assist them in filling out their claims or answer any questions that they might have in that process. We are giving that a couple weeks period of time because we want everybody to have an opportunity to get their information, review it, and then we want to have that call, so then it will make more sense to people as to what the process looks like. It is a fairly automated process, logging into an online claims portal where you'll be able to review all the information we have for you, and like I said, either approve it or request to file a claim that will allow you to then provide the information that you have that differs from what we have. If claims are expected to be submitted by investors, when would that process begin? Again, September 1st. We do encourage, and I cannot say this enough, I encourage people to file their claims as quickly as possible. Number one, it gives us more time to review it and go through and help work through any issues that might exist on a claim. And number two, it will allow us to file the claims motion and the motion for distribution quicker. Again, my team's plan is to start auditing claims as soon as we get them. And so any claims we get very early in the process, we can audit early in the process, and then we can work through any issues and be done with that. That way, when December 1st rolls around, hopefully we won't have a lot of claims that have just been filed that we will then have to audit at that time frame, because again, that will push out the timeline it takes to file the claims motion. The claims forms are set up to where everything can be done online, so they can be signed online. You can submit information online, and so it should be a very easy process for the investors. That was our plan all along. How long will investors have to fill out the claims form provided by you? They'll have 91 days total. And we chose 91 days because the 90th day fell on a Sunday. Typically, these processes are 90 days. But the 90th day fell on a Sunday, so we wanted to bump it out to the next day. So everybody will have till December 1st of 2025 to file their claims. For easy cut and dry claims, why can't they be paid out and done? Again, because we have to know what the total amount of claims are before we can determine the percentage that will be paid out. If we were to, estimate that and be wrong, then it could end up with that certain people would get a higher percentage than others in the first distribution. And of course, that's not an equitable result. So we need to make sure that we have the total amount of claims that are due. Next question is, again, what are the key milestones to help us understand what percentage of our investments we will get back? The biggest things are, the first group of assets that we collected and sold obviously will provide the first, tranche of monies available. There is a second round of assets that we are in the process of collecting and getting back that will also be sold. There's litigation currently against Wells Fargo Bank. There will be further litigation against other entities and individuals as necessary. And it appears that there will also be a clawback process for people that got money that they otherwise were not entitled to. Is there a way to check if I'm on the list of investors who suffered a loss? The best way to do that is if you have any questions about it, is you can either reach out to our office directly. You can via phone or email, or if you have not already, you can get on the Receivership website and submit your information there to make sure you're on the list. The best way to know if you're a losing investor and you do not receive materials from us, in that first week of September, then you should reach out to us and make sure that we know who you are and have information on you. There are a small handful of investors where we've had difficulty finding contact information. And so if you do, like I said, if you don't receive that information in the first week of September, please do reach out to us and make sure that we have your contact information. If you have any questions, please do call us, email us, or fill out the information on the website. When do you anticipate the letters or emails to be going out regarding how much the forensic accounting showed the expected claim amount? Those emails will be going out on September 1st. I do encourage you, if you don't see it, to make sure you're checking your junk email and in any kind of spam filter you might have to make sure it doesn't accidentally get caught up in that process. But the website information for where you can file a claim will also be available on our website. And so you can go there. But I do encourage you to wait until you receive the materials from us because that will provide you the information you need in order to be able to log in and file your claim. Next question is distribution process. What percentage do you think will be returned? That number is impossible to know at this point. Number one, we need to know what the total amount of claims is in order to figure out that. And then, of course, we don't yet know what the, what assets will be collected and sold for certain, as well as, what the outcome will be of the litigation that we have in the clawback process. Obviously, our hope is to return as much money as possible. We want to get as much money into investors' hands as possible. So we're going to do everything we can to collect as much money of that money as possible. But we also have to look at it from a cost benefit analysis. If it's going to cost us more money, or even equal money to go out and get what we could recover, then obviously that doesn't make good economic sense, and we would not do that. But otherwise, we will go after all available sources of funds and look to collect those for the benefit of investors. The next question is, when is the estimate of when the distribution will be sent out? There's a subsequent question about, will that be in 2025? The honest answer is it's unlikely that it will be in 2025. While I would love to think that everybody's going to file their claim early and we'll be able to get it all done in early December, even if that's true, we still have to file the motion with the court. The court has to hear it and consider it. And then once the court has established those claims, then then as subsequent to, or actually alongside, we will be filing a motion for distribution, and that distribution will lay out what we anticipate doing, how we anticipate doing the distribution, when that will occur, and kind of what that looks like from a monetary sense, how much money we will be sending out at that point. Next question. I have closed my bank account that was associated with the investment and the money can't be refunded to that account. Will we just get a check in the mail? While we haven't done a final determination of how the distribution will go out, it is likely that it will be via check. If we do decide that it'll go out via an ACH or a wire, we would solicit the payment information from the claimants at that time. So the money would go to the account that you tell us to send it to. The one thing I would caution, of course, is if you invested through an LLC or other means, you're going to want to make sure that the funds flow appropriately for whatever your tax situation might be. That would be a great opportunity to reach out to a tax professional and ask them about that prior to making that decision. Next question is, why are you still holding money when we could have been given a payout? Unfortunately, we can't give a payout until we know what everybody's owed. As part of this process, the court requires that we know the total amount of claims, that the court have the opportunity to review those claims and adjudicate any discrepancies or issues in the claims process. Once that has occurred, then we can send out the funds. The good news is, we are on the home stretch of that. So we are in this claims process, starting next week. We have 90 days for people to file those claims. They're going to be audited, and that information will be submitted to the court as quickly as possible. And again, investors can help out by getting that done early in the process. Let's see, will every individual investor who has made a claim be eligible to be compensated whatever the amount he or she gave? Yes, so once the claims have been filed and adjudicated by court, again, typically they will be done on a pro rata basis, so everybody will get an equal percentage of their claim. So somebody who has a $10,000 claim and somebody who has a $100,000 claim will each get the same percentage of that amount. So for example, and this is just an example, if it was a 25% payout, the person who had a $10,000 claim would get $2,500, and the person who had the $100,000 claim would get $25,000 because each party is getting 25% of what they're allowed. Will investors be made whole the answer to that question is unknown at this time. It is not typical that an investor would be made whole in a receivership just due to the nature of how funds are spent. However, there are a lot of factors that will go into how much money we ultimately end up collecting, and the largest of which, of course, is the suit against Wells Fargo Bank. And so once those outcomes are determined, we'll have a better idea of what that percentage will be. Again, it's not normal in a receivership case that people get 100% of their money back, but it is also, it has occurred in the past, although very, very infrequently. A couple of general questions. Why is this taking so long? The easiest answers to that, it's a two-prong answer. Number one, we had no accounting, and so we had to recreate that accounting from scratch, which required us to subpoena documents from banks, go through that process to ensure we had everything. In the overall complexity of the scheme, we ended up ultimately getting almost 700 bank accounts. All the wires and transfers and deposits from all those different accounts had to be analyzed to determine what the sources of funds were, how they were used, who they ultimately went to. The other side of that, of course, is that when we began this case, we had no access to any documents. And it was actually just last week when we finally got our first turnover from what the FBI had seized on March 3rd of 2022 when they got involved in the case. And so it has been a very long process attempting to get documents. And of course, without documents, we have to go out and we have to figure out information without the benefit of the contemporaneously made documents. And so it was a long process. It was difficult. But fortunately, like I said, now it should make this claims process go much smoother because we have an idea of what everybody is owed, and we just need people to verify that information. There were some challenging transactions that occurred that are kind of outside the normal of people just wiring money or giving a check. There were investor to investor transactions. There were things that were given in like kind, and given jewelry in exchange for a claim or in exchange for an investment. So there are some difficulties there. So if one of those circumstances, if you fall into one of those circumstances and you review your claim and find that it does not include that, that's when we're going to ask that you file a claim that has that additional information and provide that support at that time so we can go through and evaluate that and make sure that you have your proper claim. Next questions have to do with defendants and the parties. Legally, what happens to Judd and Jaeger if they can't or won't make restitution? Whether or not they make restitution, restitution is an SEC or a criminal thing. The money that we collect from them actually has to do with the court order and our authorization to go after any funds that are or any assets or funds that are a result of ill-gotten gains. And we do continue to go after those assets and will attempt to collect as much of that as possible. Question about unfreezing of specific defendants' assets. So once the determination has been made that that defendant has made the estate whole, it has paid back everything that they benefited from in the estate, any assets above and beyond that then will be freed up to the defendants because it belongs to them. Will defendants beside Beasley be facing criminal charges? I don't have an answer to that question. That is ultimately up to the United States Attorney's Office in Nevada as to whether or not that will happen. We have cooperated with them in document requests, but otherwise that is 100% up to them. If you have questions about that, you can always reach out to their office and figure out if they have any answers for you there. But my bet is that that we will find out as that process goes along if anybody else will be charged. The case against Beasley keeps getting rescheduled. How much more of the collected money is being wasted on attorneys and accountants for these date changes? So the case against Beasley that you're referencing is his criminal case, and none of the fees, none of the money in this estate is being used for attorneys or anything in that case. Occasionally, we do interact with his attorneys about specific information we might need or specific information they might need, but it's a very, very minimal amount. We have nothing to do with the criminal case, at this point against Beasley. If Shane Jaeger owes the receivership money, how can he continue to have assets? Again, with the defendants, if they have assets and they do owe the estate money, we will be collecting those assets in order to make sure that the estate gets made whole, and so we can return that money to investors. See, are there any follow-up documents regarding the claim on the motion for Jeff Judd to cooperate with the receiver? Yes, there has been further action, and we are actually in the process of, they are actually in the process of turning documents over to us. We have an agreement in place, and that will be ongoing here very, very shortly. Are there any parties that are making disbursement of funds to investors more difficult? I would say not on an active basis. We are working with everyone. Some people do cooperate more than others do. And so that can slow down the process. But at this point now, we have the information we need to be able to do that. And the only additional information we might need is, as I said, related to some of the transactions that occurred that are not within the normal way a transaction would have occurred in this case. Next group of questions has to do with litigation and third parties. The first question is, please update us on the Wells Fargo lawsuit. So the discovery process is complete in the Wells Fargo case. Wells Fargo did file what's called a summary judgment motion. They argue there's not enough evidence to go to trial. Of course, we disagree with that. If they happen to win on summary judgment, then the case is over. If they don't win, then we're going to go to trial. We are preparing for trial. We do not anticipate that motion will go for that the motion for summary judgment would be granted. It's very normal that they file these motions in this type of case. We certainly think that there's plenty of evidence there to go to trial. However, given that there's always a level of uncertainty as to what might happen, we are having a third mediation with Wells Fargo at the very beginning of October. Next question. If during settlement discussions with Wells Fargo makes an offer, are you obligated to share that offer with investors? So if the offer is accepted, then we will file a motion. If we accept an offer that they make, we would then file a motion with the court in order to reach a settlement with Wells Fargo, and then that information would become public typically. If they make us an offer and we decline the offer, those settlement discussions are confidential and cannot be shared. It has to do with the mediation privilege in order to get people to mediate in good faith. Those discussions are sealed and we are not allowed to discuss them outside of the mediation process. Has Wells Fargo made the decision to settle or go forward to trial? Wells Fargo has shown every indication that they want to go to trial, and then if they lose, that they would file an appeal. We have full faith in our evidence that we have in this case. We have no issue going to trial. However, trials are expensive and they take a long time. And so, our goal is to try to put as much pressure on Wells Fargo to settle this case as quickly as possible. And we will continue to work towards that. What is the likelihood of Wells Fargo rejecting a settlement offer and choosing to go to trial? And how long would that take? It's impossible for us to predict the likelihood of what Wells Fargo will or won't do. We have had good conversations with them, about a potential settlement in the case. However, we have not yet settled. They have made it clear that they have no issue going to trial. We have also made it clear that we have no issue going to trial in the case. However, if a trial was to happen, it's likely that trial wouldn't happen until at least late 2026, if not 2027, or even potentially 2028, depending on the court's calendar. We don't, that's a very long period of time. And so our goal is to try to get this resolved short of that. What state would the Wells Fargo case be held in if it goes to court? So the case has already been filed in federal district court in Nevada. So it would be heard in Las Vegas at the federal courthouse. And if that does happen, we will publish that information. And so it's available to everyone if they do want to attend that trial. What are the timelines to understand a final decision relative to the Wells Fargo case? Again, if that case happens, it would at least be at the latter half of 2026 and maybe much later. An appeal, whoever loses that case is likely to appeal it no matter what, which again could take a year or more from that date. And so, it could be a very long and drawn out process. And again, because there's no trial date set yet, we don't know what that looks like. We have asked the court to stay any decisions on any motions until after we finish the mediation at the beginning of October, to prevent anything from happening that would prevent either side from wanting to go mediate in good faith. Next question about assets. Do you anticipate being able to claw back additional assets? Yes, absolutely. There are a number of assets that we are going to continue to collect, some of which we've known about previously, and some of which we have discovered through the forensic accounting process. That is one of the benefits of doing a forensic accounting, is we get to see everything that was purchased. And so we know what assets to then go after, to the extent the defendants still owe money. And so we will continue to do that. Have you started collecting from people that came out ahead? No, we have not started collecting from them yet. However, that process will be coming here very, very shortly. We already alerted the court in our hearing last week that we intend to file a motion to allow us to do that, and we'll be starting that process soon. We have talked to some winning investors already who have indicated their that they wanted to repay that money, and so we are drafting the documents that we need in order to be able to do that, and hope to have that on file very, very shortly. Next question is, why is the money not bearing interest? The same amount has been in there for 2 years. Actually, the money is actually bearing interest, and if you look at the standardized financial accounting report that we file with our report every quarter, you'll see that there is an interest amount included in there, and it's been fairly substantial. It's been over $1 million a year in interest that we've collected for the estate. And so we will continue to collect that money. In fact, we actually move some of that money to a new account in order to allow us to collect a little bit higher percentage rate, but yet still keep the money protected and insured. Let's see, as of today, how much money is left to reimburse investors on a prorated basis? Again, we have to figure out what that prorated basis is by figuring out how much exactly is owed to claimants. And then we, of course, take that and divide that out. That information will be detailed in the request for the distribution. And so that we will produce that information at that time. We don't, we try to be as clear in this process as possible. However, until we get a final number on claims, we can't say for certain what that will be. Next group of questions has to do with clawbacks. And again, the similar question is, have we reached out to net winners yet to request that they pay the money back? So we have reached out to net winners to ensure that we understood their accounting correctly, much like we're allowing claimants or investors to be able to file a claim for the money that they're owed and providing them the calculations on what they're owed. We also reached out to people that we think that made money on it to ensure that they had an opportunity to review their calculations as well, to ensure that we had that information correct. And again, we will be seeking permission from the court shortly in order to be able to go back and claw back some of those winnings. Has money been collected from the promoters? The promoters will be in that same class of clawback. And so that will be part of the same motion that we file with the court in order to be able to do that. And then the next question is, has their money been collected from other third parties? We have been in communication with some of those third parties and are working on getting some of those monies returned to us as well. If we can't do it voluntarily, then of course we would consider litigation in order to get that taken care of. So those are all the specific questions that were sent to us ahead of time. Again, I want to reiterate, I'm very excited that we get to start this claims process. I hope that it is an easy process for all claimants. That is the goal, given that we spent all the time and effort that we did getting this forensic accounting into the form that we did. But I do encourage you, if you have questions, to reach out to us. But again, we will be holding a claims meeting. We're going to do it via Zoom like this, where we could walk through the claim and what it is and what each of the areas means and how to properly fill it out. And then the goal is, after that call, that we will actually have availability for people to come and meet with us and talk about their claim. If that process ends up being one that investors really take advantage of, we will consider doing a second round of those meetings as well. And would even consider doing a meeting outside of Las Vegas if there's a large enough demand. For example, the second largest group of investors is in the Salt Lake City area. And so if there is a demand for that, we would consider also doing one of those claims meetings in Salt Lake City. We want to make sure investors get back what they're owed. That's the number one thing in this process. It's our goal to get the money into to the hands of the people that it belongs to. It may seem like a claim process is one in which we're trying to keep people from getting money, but it's really not that. The claims process is just designed to make sure that the money goes to the people that it belongs to and not to anybody else. So again, communication, if you want to get a hold of us, there's a few easy ways to do it. You can first email us at contact@jjconsulting-receivership.com. Again, that's contact@jjconsulting-receivership.com. receivership.com. And note that there's no ampersand in the J&J. It's just JJ because ampersand is not a symbol that is allowed on a website. The second way you can get a hold of us is via telephone, area code 702-832-2299. Again, that's 702-832-2299. So that's how you can reach us via phone. And again, if you have not already registered, I do encourage you to do so. Please go to the website, which is jjconsulting-receivership.com. Again, that's jjconsulting-receivership.com. That getting on that website and registering, if you've not already, will ensure that we have your contact information. In addition, we will also be publishing notification in a few different newspapers to ensure that we catch everybody. If you know somebody who invested in J&J and you're not sure that they've been in communication with us, please do encourage them to reach out to us. Like I said, there are still a handful of people that we have not been able to find contact information for. And so we would love to get in communication with those people. So if you have not contacted us, or if you're unsure if we have your contact information, please do feel free to email it to us, call us with it, or to get on the website and fill out the contact form so we have that. Again, emails are going out on Monday for the claims process. If by a few days after that you have not seen it and it's not in your spam or junk folder, do reach out to us and we can figure out why you did not get notice. I appreciate you guys taking the time. The contact information is in the chat, so if you do want to be able to do that, I do encourage you to reach out to us through one of those methods. Again, I appreciate you guys taking the time and encourage you all to get those claims in as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.